stand up really quick. This is like an impromptu thing I thought of during lunch, but considering our theme of the day, Shiro, I want you to all, you guys don't, I don't need this, okay. I want you to all stand in suit. Have you guys seen Grey's Anatomy? Where's my Grey's Anatomy fans? No. Have you guys heard of this? The hero pose? So this, I left my phone over there. Wrote down a few thoughts about it, but this has actually been proven. If you stand like this for at least 3 minutes, it grows your confidence and it takes away nervousness. And so if you're scared to send out your magical text, I want you to sit and go stand in front of a mirror. And is this the right pose?
Isn't this Wonder Woman, like where you look up and
Yep.
feet are like kind of like binary?
Stand in front of your mirror and just like look at yourself being Shiro of your own story. Pop your chest out. I'm not going to make you guys do this for 3 minutes because I only have an hour, but I don't know how long this is going to take because when you're writing it, you're like, this is like 20 minutes worth of stuff. And then you get in front of people and you're like, what? I only have 10 minutes left? I'm going to get going. So, but I want you guys to do this because there's science behind it and because I know that when you're just starting out something new, like what Emily trained on, it's scary. So do your Shiro pose and remind yourself that you are the Shiro of your own story. And then when you're done, send out the text, okay? Like, you'll live, I promise. You'll continue to breathe. You'll continue to breathe. Okay. So the whole premise of what I'm going to train on is simple systems, okay? Simple systems, because you want to keep it simple. You know the KISS thing, like keep it simple, sweetie, okay? That's what we say in Mary Kay. So keeping it simple using systems, and I'm going to take you back circa 2016. So I had already been building my business for 2 years back in 2016, but it was January, and I attended an event that was a lot like this. It was called January Jumpstart, and I kind of went there hesitantly because I had just kind of fallen out of my red jacket, and I'm an extremely competitive person, and one of my team members was going there as a red jacket. So I didn't really want to go, but my director is a lot, and so she like, she made me go to career conference, and so it's like I knew if I didn't show up, I would be receiving a phone call, and so I just decided to go to avoid the phone call, and I sat in the back with my arms crossed, and I was just really like not in a good headspace. And it was at that event that I had this like huge mind shift. It was like the first time I had ever heard the term limiting beliefs. And it was just like this huge storm of all these things that just kind of gave me that like aha moment. And so to give you an idea of where I was during that time, I was 2 years into my business, had been in and out of my red jacket more times than I'm not going to tell you how many times because I honestly don't know. It was a lot, okay? A lot in 2 years. But I was like kind of comfortable. Like with what I was doing, I was kind of comfortable. Has anyone ever been there? Like, you're kind of destined for more, but you're like, I don't know, I'm kind of all set right here. Like, I don't really want to do anything else. So long story short, we already talked about the in-home daycare thing, but at that time in my life, I had just opened the in-home daycare. And I hated waking up in the morning, you guys. I really dreaded it. I had a 18-month-old. I was pregnant with my second kid. And I just remember sitting there at my kitchen table one morning. I was like waiting for the daycare kids to come. And I was just like my cup of coffee was kind of sitting there. And I'm just like, I can't do this until I'm 65. Like, this is not what it's supposed to be like. And so, anyway, so I attended this event. And it was kind of like at the end of January. It was the last Friday and Saturday in January. And so I have this like epiphany, right? And part of my epiphany was I realized how mom deaf I had been. Do you guys know what mom deaf? Yeah? You guys know what that is? So everything that this national was saying was everything that my senior had been saying all along. And I just realized that, you just hear it differently sometimes when it's coming from somebody else. And so it rocked my world. So anyway, I went home, and I just did what I should have been doing the whole time. I held a perfect 6. Okay, you guys know what that is? It's like a Power Start Plus. You got your 6 parties, your 6 career shares. Okay, yeah. I was like asking Grace, I'm like, what's all your terminology? Because like we have like terms that all mean the same thing, but they're different terms. So 6 career shares and your 600 wholesale. So I did that in February, and then I did it again in March. And you know what happened in March? I went on Target for my car. Okay, so I went from having 1 active team member to having 5 active. And then in April, I did a perfect 6 again. And then May 1st is when I submitted for DIQ, okay? And I remember I sat in a downtown Dallas hotel and recruited my last 2 team members to finish DIQ and debut on August 1st of 2016. So that's, March, April, May, June, July was kind of like how quickly that happened. And so the reason that this is relevant to what I'm talking about is because I'm gonna share how I did it. I just did it using simple systems. I learned early on that, because I worked 50 hours, that's how many hours a week my daycare was open. I worked 50 hours a week. I had an 18-month-old, I was pregnant, so I was like big and tired and like didn't really feel like lugging all my stuff to my car for my beauty sessions. And so I had to keep it simple using systems. I had to be strategic with my time. So the first one that I'm gonna talk about is a lead generating system, okay? This is something that I mastered right away because I knew the power of one, so I knew if I could find one person to do a party, to like host a party, that I would be able to kind of get the ball rolling. But I had been in for 2 years. I kind of like exhausted all my friends and family, I felt like. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to like get creative here. So I reached out to a few girls that my husband went to high school with. Super intimidating. So I reached out to the first girl and I'm like, hey, do you want to like have like a girls' night and I can give you like some masks and stuff? And she was like, yeah, no. And I was like, okay. And then I asked the next girl and she was like, oh my God, yeah, like I have a couple girls that would totally do that. Can we drink wine? And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Just let me come over. And I got referrals, and then it was just kind of like this big snowball effect that started happening when I got the referrals. So that was something that I mastered right away, and that's kind of one of the first systems I'm going to train on because yes, you can get referrals, but do you have it is it systematic for you? Like, are you like making that into a system? Like, does anyone have stacks of referrals sitting around that you're just not reaching out to? Yeah. Who wants to have stacks of referrals laying around? Okay, perfect. Do we have that sheet that, because I printed off my script for you guys. I love handouts. So I was like, you know what? It's like, I'm going to give you guys some handouts here. So the first thing, though, that I want to talk about with I call it the fabulous game. Let's see that one. It's the fabulous game. That's what I call it. I call it that during all of my sessions. I play this virtually. I play this in person. And if I don't get 15 names per person that's on my sessions, I'm like I'm a little bit of a referral snob, and I know she is too. So I'll just be like, what's her problem? Like, I know they know 15 people with skin. So here's the deal though, is that there's a mind shift that has to happen with the fabulous game. Because if you're just thinking like, hi, okay, so there's a sheet in front of you. If you just want to like fill that out with like names and numbers of your friends, and I'll text them and see if they want to host a party. Nobody's gonna do that. Nobody. Please don't do that. What you're offering them is such a gift. And you have to believe that. Like Emily said it earlier, that we are longing for like connectedness and community with other people. And so you're giving them an opportunity to do that. And what's more fun than like putting on like hydrogel eye patches and masks with your favorite people? Okay, so knowing that what you're offering them is a gift and then presenting it to them in that way, like this is a gift. So that's kind of like the first thing. So I'm going to do my fabulous game for you guys. And oh my God, it's been like a year since I've done it in person and not in front of a screen, but I'm going to give it my best shot, okay? Because it's the same thing. Literally, I do the same thing on Zoom that I would do in person. Okay, so, well, it's a little bit different, but it's not. So in person, I usually do hydrogel sessions where they do the patches. So it's the perfect amount of time to do the fabulous game and then a little bit of marketing because it's like 20 minutes. They got to have those on. Masks, same thing. So on my Zoom sessions or parties, I call them sessions. So if it slips, just know I mean party. On my Zoom parties, I have them do charcoal mask. Okay, so it's the same thing. So okay, while our masks dry, we're gonna play a couple of games. I need to know who's competitive though. Raise your hands. Okay, we've got some competitive people. It doesn't really matter either way because everybody gets competitive with this game, and it might be because of what you're gonna win at the end because everyone can technically be a winner. So I'm gonna look at my script to make sure that maybe I don't have it. No, that's okay. I don't need it. I don't need it.
or was it that not on there?
Huh? No, this is just I just want to make sure that I'm, here, just hand it to me real quick. You guys, I like have like a slideshow that I use during my sessions, so I'm looking at bullet points, I'm like, what do I even say? I don't even know. Once I get going, I'll be fine. Okay, oh, yeah, duh. Okay, so I'm like, okay. I'm like having this huge brain fart. So I'm like, at the way beginning of the session, you have to set them up for this. Because if you're just like, oh, hey, by the way, we're gonna play this game, people are kind of thrown off a little, and then they get a little defensive. So at the beginning of the session, the party, I open it up and I'm like, I ask them kind of what their experience is with Mary Kay, and then I say, I always ask that because a lot of people don't know that in Mary Kay, we actually believe women don't need skincare and makeup to be beautiful. We believe you're beautiful no matter what. That really grabs people's attention because they're not really ready for you to say that. They're like, what? Like, I thought you were here to like have us buy everything, which you will because it's awesome. But we're really here for the community and the connectedness, and that's the whole reason that we're doing this. Blah 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 blah. I also, so welcome to your masking session. I also do other sessions too, and then I talk about like they can do hydrogel or like a makeup session. So I kind of present that second party like right away, and then I say you can also gift sessions too. You can also gift sessions, and so then when I get here, I say, so I mentioned earlier that you'd have the opportunity to gift some beauty sessions to your favorite people, and now's that chance to do that. So. With each beauty session that I gift, they also get a $10 gift card. It's from you, but I'm going to take care of it for you. So then I ask who's competitive. Okay, so this is for an in-person session. Obviously, you don't pass out sheets on a Zoom party. I send them with the beauty pack. So they get the referral sheet with the beauty pack. And you guys have one that you use, right, Grace? Like a referral sheet? Okay, so I say, in your beauty pack, you'll find a little half sheet that says like referral game on, or fabulous game. If you want to grab that out, I'm going to really quick tell you what I say to people so you know I'm not like creepy about it. And then usually they laugh. Sometimes they don't, and I'm like, okay. So I like need people to laugh so I know that they're having, like I need that satisfaction. Like even if it's a fake laugh, I don't care. But I'm just like, hey, Emily, it's Emily with Mary Kay, and I don't think we've met, but we both know Grace Lemke, and she and I did a beauty session together and had a lot of fun, and she had the opportunity to gift one to a couple of deserving people, and she chose you as one of them. Do you prefer a call or text with details? Okay, so most people say text. Sometimes if they're like, oh, no, thanks, I'm not interested, I just say, thanks for letting me know, I hope you have a great day. And they're like, thanks, you too, smiley face emoji, and then we move on with our lives. So I tell them, like, that's literally what this is going to look like. You kind of see them sit back a little. They're like, oh, okay, like, totally. And I'll even, like, point to my hostess and be like, did you think I was creepy when I texted you? And she's always like, no, I didn't at all. So I'll usually call up my hostess and be like, I don't know, did you think it was, like, what was your reaction? She's like, no, I thought it was really cool. I'm like, sweet. So let's see. So then my rules for the game. If you're doing in-person sessions, I guess it doesn't really matter because if you're doing both kinds, I took the driving distance out of one of my rules because if they're super far, just do it Zoom, all right? Like now we have that tool in our tool belt. But basically I say they can use their phones. They have to be a legal adult, so over 18. They only have to write their first names. I don't even ask for last names. Like, let's get this show on the road. Like, first names is fine. And then they have to have skin. That's always like my last rule. They have to have skin.
Not skinless people.
No skinless people, please. Just people with skin. So then, okay, so here's like I want you to put a star by this. At the beginning of the last paragraph on the sheet, put a star on it. This is super important. I typically find most people know 15 people with skin. You're like normalizing it, right? And they're like, yeah, that's probably true. I usually find most people know 15 people with skin, so anyone who does all 15, you're automatically going to get a purse-sized hand cream. Don't call it mini. It's a purse-sized hand cream. It's bigger than mini. Purse-sized hand cream. I said thank you for helping me build my business. And then the first person to fill it all out, you're going to get this prize. So if it's an in-person, you're going to like hold it up and dangle it and just have like a cute little bag with an eyeshadow or a discontinued item or something in there. So the first person is going to get that. It kind of adds like a sense of urgency, or else they'll sit there for 15 minutes and just take their time. So it kind of turns it into like a fun little game. So then anyone who fills the whole thing out, I give them a purse-sized hand cream. If it's a Zoom party, and when they order, you could just CDS it, and you can add that hand cream in there for free. So it just works out pretty good. So that's my fabulous game. And I would say it usually takes, I don't don't know, 10 minutes of my session. But when if you have 5 guests and you get 15 referrals per person, that's a lot of, I don't know, 75? You've got 75 names and numbers from that one session that you can text. And then you make it systematic. So when I was building to DIQ and in DIQ, I made sure I was sending out 15 new booking texts per day to make sure that my day book stayed filled up. Because I think we were talking about it at lunch. It's like you fill up your day book and you're super like riding off that high from having all those parties on your day book that you forget to keep booking. Has anyone ever done that before where you're like, oh, now my day book's empty? So you want to make sure you make it systematic so that you're never running out of bookings, you're consistently always having bookings. So finding a system that works for you, because everybody's systems are going to look different. So you have to find a system that works for you. Grace, you use Project Broadcast?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sure you talked about that before. Project Broadcast, you guys know what that is? I don't know what I would do without it. It's $10 a month, you guys. It's amazing. Like when I first discovered, I've actually had many texting things. They used to be like $100 a month, you guys. $10.
They were so expensive.
So expensive. When I was in DIQ, I was paying $107 a month to have a texting program. But it took that much. I'm sorry, my P's are getting really like powerful. Yeah. I'm really passionate, I guess. It just took so much off my shoulders to not have like to worry about that follow-up, knowing that these texting systems were just going to follow up for me. So you have to make it systematic. Okay, so the next system I'm going to talk about is tracking systems. Okay, and this is another thing I had to master early on, and how you track is up to you. Like when I was in DIQ, this annoyed my husband so bad. I had my daycare was mostly downstairs in my house, so that the upstairs could be like ours. And so I really didn't have an office, and so I was working from our kitchen table, and I had this big, ugly whiteboard on like our counter with like all the cabinets. So anytime you need to get some out of the cabinet, you have to move the whiteboard to get into the cabinet. But I was tracking DIQ and CAR on that board. So anytime something changed, I updated the numbers. Like I was watching them like a hawk because I was like focused on tracking that. So I learned really fast that a tracked number grows, right? If you don't know where you are, you don't know where you've been, and you definitely don't know where you're going. So why track? So I've had people try to convince me that they're better off not tracking. I have yet to be convinced by anyone that they're better off not tracking. Like I said, how you track, the sheets you use, the style when you do it, what you look at, that's all going to be as individual as you are. So you're not like the tracking sheets that work for me aren't necessarily going to be what works for you, but you have to figure out what works for you because you have to track. So what you focus on grows. I want you guys to write this one down actually, so I'll say it slow. What you focus on grows. You cannot change what you do not know. You do not know what you do not track. What you focus on grows. You cannot change what you do not know. You do not know what you do not track. We've talked about insanity cycles a little bit today, but I've seen consultants and even directors get caught up in these insanity cycles because they don't track, so they don't know, and then they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they expect different results. It was like me in my red jacket for the first 2 years. I was like, I know I want more, but I'm not really keeping track of anything. I don't really know where I've been. I don't really know where I'm going, and kind of okay with that because I don't really want to feel uncomfortable or fear. If I was tracking, I think everything would have been a lot more clear to me. So basically, the subconscious mind will work to bring what you're focused on into reality. I've done a lot of studying on the subconscious mind. It's a powerful thing. What's the point? I'm not even like holding it by my mouth, so it's like, what's the point? Subconscious mind is such a powerful thing, and that's why we say this business is 90% what's in your brain. So the subconscious mind will work to bring what you're focused on into reality, and that's why I believe when I was going through qualifications for the CAR, qualifications for DIQ, because I was looking at those numbers every single day, I was making lunch for the daycare kids, looking over at my numbers. Like every day I studied those numbers and that brought it into reality. So create this space for your brain to focus on something. Tracking creates that space for your mind and your heart to have that focus on what you're after. Is it Red Jacket? Is it DIQ? Is it National Court of Sales? Tracking cures what ails you. You know, you have a health problem, track what you eat. You have a spending problem, track your purchases. Tracking alone brings new awareness. New awareness creates different choices. Choices create habits, and habits define our lives. Our life is an accumulation of habits that we've created. So when you can change those bad habits, your life will go in a different direction. Okay, so you want to figure out how to make it systematic. And that's the big thing, is making it systematic. So I have another tracking sheet, and this tracking sheet, you might hate it, and it's not going to work for you, but it might give you like a beginning point of like where you can start to create your own tracking sheet, or where you probably have 1,000 tracking sheets that you guys have access to. Yeah, so figure out what you're going to track. So what I think is the most, and you're either someone who loves to track or you're someone who hates to track. I've had yet to find someone like right in the middle where they're like, tracking's okay. You either love it or you hate it. If you hate it, too bad. You're gonna have to find at least one thing to start tracking, make it a habit, turn it into a system, and then track the next thing. So I think what's really important, I think whether you're a consultant or a director, the most important thing to track, in my opinion, is your activity, like your faces. Because if you know how many faces you're seeing and what your results are, you know where your strengths are and what you need to improve it. So this is what I use for my Zoom session tracking. So I found out quickly that when I had a bunch of all of a sudden I booked all these Zoom sessions and I was getting these registration forms in and I didn't know who they belonged to. Because some people put their birthday instead of the day of their session, and I just was getting overly confused with all of it. So I'm like, okay, I need some sort of tracking. I realized I'm not tracking this and I need to. I was tracking it on a perfect 6 tracking sheet, but not so that I knew what was going on. So basically, it's broken up into different parties. And so I always put the hostess on the first line, when her session date is, if I sent her package, and what her skin type is. Then the other section on the right is for during the actual party. So notes, did she win a prize? I give away virtual raffle tickets, so I just put tally marks in that notes section to keep track of that. And then how many referrals did she send you? Was she an A, B, or C on the interest scale that we're not paying attention to, right? But we still want to ask. The beauty session guide questions, or the party guide questions. And this is all depending on how you do your Zoom sessions too. I send a guide, and then on the back they have to answer my closing questions and send me a picture, or else the hostess doesn't get her half-off item. So, did they place an order, and then did you book a coffee date or a second party from that one? Did she book a second party? So you're tracking full circle is really what you're doing here. And so you can look and see, I'm only getting 2 or 3 referrals per person. I want that number to be bigger. If you're not tracking that, you don't know how many referrals you're getting. Because if you can grow that number to 10 or 15 per person, you're never going to run out of leads ever. Ever. Referrals is the only way I get leads. I don't do warm chat. I've done lead boxes, but I don't love it. Referrals is how I built everything. My entire business is built off referrals. And the magic script. Magical script. And that too. If you guys don't have the problem with sales, but if you notice that you're getting a lot of referrals and you're booking a lot of second parties, but then it's my sales are kind of crap. Then you know who you can go to is the queen of all things sales and be like, Grace, I need you to coach me because my sales aren't super high. So tracking is super important. Tracking your money. So pick one thing though. If you're not tracking anything right now, just pick one thing and just track it. Crazy. Power 6 or perfect 6 tracking sheet. Just a tracking sheet like this. If you're doing a lot more Zoom parties than in person right now, but pick something you're gonna track. Okay. So this last one is not something I kind of went rogue here and was you know what? I'm also gonna go into time management systems because this was another thing for me that I didn't have good time management when I really started building my business. But one thing I did have was access to NSD Leah Lachlan, and she taught me, it was just some live video she did. I don't remember how I found it. Like, I don't remember.
She's so good though.
Because it was before I was a director, so I was like, I just came across it somewhere, and it rocked my world. Like, it completely rocked my world. So, I'm first gonna talk about, I'm gonna tell you guys kind of a story first, and then we'll kind of get into like the nitty gritty of it. So we don't build the lives we want by saving time. You know, I always think about like, oh, if I could save an hour here and an hour there. We don't build our lives, the lives that we want. We don't build the lives that we want by saving time. We build the lives we want, and then time saves itself. So here's what I mean. So a study was done by a woman named Laura Vanderkam, and she's like an author, like a time management researcher. Like, she's cool. She actually did a TED Talk on this, which is where I first heard it. But so she studied, it's a weird number. She studied 1001 days in the lives of extremely busy women. So like, you know, they had demanding jobs. Sometimes they had their own businesses. They had kids to care for, maybe parents to care for. They had community commitments, like all these things. Busy, busy, busy women. And so they had to keep track of their week on this like time journal. Okay, so she like studied, like, I don't know if she did like a few people a week or what she did, but they just kept track of their time for like 1 week on this journal. So one of the women studied, she leaves on a Wednesday night to go probably community commitment or something, and she comes home and she finds that her water heater has broken, and there's water all over her basement. All over her basement. So she's dealing with the immediate aftermath when she gets home that Wednesday. And then the next day she's got plumbers coming in, and then the day after that she's got these like professional cleaning people coming in. She's got soaked carpet down at the bottom in her basement. And it's just like a sloppy mess. And so all of this is being recorded on her time log. She's, you know, said she would do this time log, so she's writing all this down. The broken water heater ended up taking up 7 hours of her day. Okay? 7 hours. That's, oh, sorry, not of her day, of her whole week. 7 hours of her whole week. And like 7 hours. It's like finding an extra hour in the day. Like, can you imagine finding an extra hour in the day? So I'm sure if you would have asked her at like the beginning of the week, like, hey, could you find like an extra hour a day to like train for a triathlon or to like mentor 7 worthy people? Could you find an extra hour in the day? She would have said the same thing we all would have said, which is basically like, no, can't you see how busy I am? Right? Yet, when she had to find 7 hours, because there was water all over her basement, she found 7 hours. Right? The key to time management is treating our priorities as equivalent to that broken water heater. Everything you do, every minute you spend is your choice. I don't have time often means it's not a priority. I think Em said that earlier, or Grace, somebody did. So it must be true if I'm repeating it. But if you think about it, it's true. I could tell you that I don't have time to clean behind my fridge. But then if you were like, hey, I'm gonna give you $10,000 if you clean behind your fridge, I would get to it pretty quickly, right? Like, oh. So basically, since that's not going to happen, I think we can all agree that cleaning behind my fridge is just not a priority, right? Time is a choice, and time invested in one area is always taken away from another. Who knows how many hours there are in a week? 168 hours. 24 times 7 is 168. Okay, it's a lot of time. So if you're working 40 hours a week, you're sleeping 8 hours at night. Lucky woman. You're sleeping 8 hours a night. That leaves 72 hours a week for other things. If you're working 40 hours a week and you're sleeping 8 hours a night, 72 hours for other things. It's a lot of time. If you're working 50 hours a week, you're sleeping 8 hours a night. That leaves 62 hours for other things. Okay? So here are 3 things that I learned from NSD Leah Lachlan that completely just like rocked my world. And then I just turned it into a simple system. It was like she trained on these like 3 things in this like 9-minute live video that I miraculously found. And then I took those 3 things and I just turned them into a system. So the first thing is called a brain dump. So write down brain dump on your piece of paper. And so I'll explain what it is, and then I'm going to explain the next thing, and then I'll explain the third thing, and then I'll show you like what I do and how I incorporate it into